welcome back, everybody. I hope you've had a good break and you've got yourself a cup of tea or coffee or whatever your tipple is. Hopefully not so tippily this time of the day, though. We have got a great session lined up for you right now. But to start, I will just go through the housekeeping. I almost said housework, but I'm not going to do that to you this morning. So please show some emoji love for our incredible speaker, Chloe, this morning, and type in the chat. If you have a look in the chat, we do have a competition running for this session exclusively because Chloe's event that happened in July was a record breaker for emojis. And it was a 1 or 1.5 hour session, and it broke the record for emojis. So if you can guess the right number or get close to it, we will give you a prize at the end of the session. So do put your guesses in there. And also, please do type some questions in the Q&A. This session, I think, is really well timed because we're entering into a season where we're thinking about in-person rather than virtual. So I think this is just going to be a great session for figuring out, where do you stand on the virtual events spectrum. So this is going to be a great session. Chloe has been a brilliant client that I've gotten to work with, and she is the head of communications at RHP, which is an award-winning housing group, and Chloe has helped them to win awards. She does everything with absolute excellence, super amounts of creativity. So you're going to be really inspired and engaged by Chloe's session this morning. So over to you, Chloe.
Thank you so much, Carly, and a big hello to everyone. So brilliant to be here and see you all here. Before I start, I'm just going to do a little bit of tech just to share my slides on my screen. Right, I can't seem to get them up. So Lee, could you come in, please, and save the day and put them up for me? Thank you very much, Lee. That's why I should have trusted Lee just to do it straight away because I know he's so awesome. So thank you, everyone, and hello. So as Carly said, my name is Chloe and I am head of communications and engagement at RHP Group, which is a housing organisation based in London. You can move to the next slide, please, Lee. And today I am going to be discussing my thoughts on whether virtual events can ever come close to face-to-face. And in doing that, I'm going to be sharing some things I've learned over the last 12 months about what makes a virtual event really engaging, impactful, and memorable. And it's really apt that I'm having this conversation at commsHERO, because I'm sure you will all agree that the We Are Resource Gang have delivered an absolute masterclass in how to put on an engaging virtual event. So just a massive well done and congratulations to Asif and the team for another brilliant week. Before I start, though, I want to have a little bit of a flashback and take you back to around this time last year, when I would have given a resounding no to that question. I would have said, no way can a virtual event ever come close to anything face-to-face. And to put a little bit of context around that, every year we deliver an employee conference. And those conferences are a lot more than just your standard corporate events. They're special moments that become ingrained in our culture. People get major FOMO missing out on them. They book holidays around them so that they can make sure they attend. They look forward to them weeks in advance and they talk about them years afterwards as well. We put a lot of time and effort and energy into raising the bar each time and making them bigger and better. You can see some of the photos of some of our past events on the screen here. Top right one is us doing the Hacker at Twickenham Stadium, which was just after the Rugby World Cup a couple of years ago. Bottom left is one of my favourites, which was a conference called Adventures in Time, and it had a Back to the Future theme. And in that car, which is a DeLorean, it is our chief exec dressed as the Doc and one of our directors dressed as Marty McFly. So hopefully you can see we like to do things a little bit differently, and they are definitely events to remember. So that when the pandemic hit last year, we kept pushing back the date for our conference because we were really hoping that we would be able to deliver it face to face. However, last autumn, the realization came to us that that really wasn't going to be realistic anytime soon. But we really needed to bring our people together as one big group. So we decided we would have to do something virtual. And I'll admit, I felt a bit deflated about that. And I just thought, oh, well, it'll be fine, but probably will be quite forgettable. It won't go down in history like all of our other conferences have. But that thought started to niggle away at me a little bit. Because firstly, none of us want to deliver something that's just fine, do we? But secondly, and more importantly, our people deserve something better than was just okay and just fine. So I started to shift my mindset, and I thought, if we're going to deliver a virtual event, let's make it the best virtual event we can possibly make it. And actually stop comparing it to something that's face-to-face and see them as two different things, and think about how can we make something virtual special and magic in a different way to something face-to-face. And I have to say, one of my turning points in that mindset was going to commsHERO last year, because it was probably the first really engaging online event I'd been to, and I could see actually it can work, it can be something special. It was also the first time I'd experienced the AirMeet platform, and I'm sure you've all agree experiencing it this week, just how great it is for virtual events. And what I love so much about it are the opportunities for interactivity. And I'll talk a little bit about the importance of the right platform later on. So I actually gave Asif a call and asked for his and the team's help in supporting us to run our virtual conference. And they provided absolutely amazing help and support in terms of running the AirMeet side, that technical side of it. So we didn't need to worry about that. And also what they do so brilliantly in helping us with our pre-event packs as well. So what I'm going to do is use our virtual conference, which we ran in March this year, as a little bit of a case study. And I'm going to talk through 5 things which I feel made it a successful virtual event. If you could move to the next slide, please. So firstly, what's your story? What's your narrative? One of the first things we do with any event, whether it's face-to-face or virtual, is think about what our theme is going to be, because everything else then hangs off that. But I think this is particularly important for a virtual event, because you've got to work that bit harder to engage people and capture their imagination before they even come along on the day itself. And when we're coming up with a theme, we put a lot of thought and meaning behind that. And we think about 2 questions. First one is, what's going on inside your organization at this moment in time? What's your strategy? What are those big goals that you're working towards achieving? And what are your challenges that might be coming up as well? Really importantly, though, what are those key messages that you want to get across from the day itself? And then the second thing we ask is, what's going on externally in the world? Are there any key events that are going on that you could hook into? Are there any collective experiences, like a pandemic, that you can tie in as well? Or are there any cultural references that are going on at the moment as well that you can bring into the mix? So when we're thinking about our theme for our virtual conference, there were a couple of big things that we really wanted to get across. We firstly wanted to celebrate and recognise just how people had pulled together over the past 12 months and since the pandemic had happened. And we were talking a lot about people being connected apart. So actually, even though we were dispersed, how well everyone had worked together to do the best for our customers and each other. But also we found that because we were working apart and people were dispersed, we were starting to feel a bit of a problem with silo working. So we also wanted to look forward to the future and set people a challenge to see how we could collaborate better across teams in a blended world and work even better together. So the key theme we came up with for our conference was Stronger Together. And I'm sure a lot of companies last year had quite a similar narrative and similar theme. And we brought that Stronger Together theme out through the power of the Avengers, little nod to commsHERO there. And we chose the Avengers because they are a team of superheroes which bring their powers together for the collective good. Hopefully you can see in the picture on this slide, those people who were dressed up as the Avengers are our executive group. And they did their keynote of the conference dressed like that, including our chief executive as Captain America. I have to say, though, our executive director of customer services, Peter, stole the show as the Hulk. So there's your first thing. What's your engaging theme that's going to hook people in straight away? And go to the next slide, please. Next is all about creating an emotional connection with your audience. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make Grant's session earlier today, but I'm definitely going to catch up with it on demand. But I know that Grant talks a lot about putting the human into digital and how you create that emotional connection. And I absolutely agree and think it's so important for virtual events as well, because sometimes they can risk not having that human touch and being a bit cold and sterile. And if that's the case, you're going to lose people, they're not going to have any impact, and they're going to be forgettable as well. So I'm sure as communicators, lots of us use the know, feel, do model or something similar when we're planning our content. And we do exactly the same when we're planning for our events. For me, the most important part of this model is the feel, because if you get the feel right, the know and do will come on their own. So as I was talking, one of our big aims was actually to encourage more cross-team and collaborative working. So if you hook people in emotionally on that, they are then going to go ahead and be encouraged more to do it. There's actually a lot of neuroscience that you might have heard around this as well. So if you work to stimulate the limbic part of the brain, which is connected to emotion, you will actually build trust and loyalty with your audience, and you will also end up influencing behavior and decision making as well. So all makes sense. I like to call this the heartbeat of your event. So I always look to see actually how can you create that emotional thread through everything you're doing. It's not enough just to say, oh, we'll just do a little bit of a nice kind of emotional thank you at the end for everyone. Every single piece of content needs to have that emotional connection as you go through. I find that the film and music are so powerful in doing this, and they lend themselves so well to something virtual. So as part of our event, we actually bookended it with two quite emotive films. The first one was really introducing people to those key messages and themes about us being stronger together. And we basically took a collection of clips from across the pandemic of our employees, either at other smaller events we're at, even if they were just having a laugh at Teams meetings, some celebrations, some awards. We put them all together with some nice emotive music, some of those key messages going in there about how they've all pulled together, and a big thank you. And we opened the event with that before we did anything else. And from then, and seeing people's reactions, seeing all those emojis, seeing people say in the chat they had a tear in their eye, I thought this is going to be a good day because they get it and they're engaged with that. Likewise, we ended the conference reinforcing those same emotions and messages as well. And we put together a fun film that featured all teams. We recorded them on Teams, all singing along to I Get By With a Little Help from My Friends. So every team had a different line. They came along dressed up in kind of fun, silly outfits, brought props along. Really, really simple concept, but it worked really well. And again, kind of we reinforced those messages about thanks for having each other's back, thanks for pulling together. And that meant people left the event with that same warm feeling, that same feeling reinforcing those emotions and messages as well. We also had a really inspiring speaker called Amar Latif, who you might have heard of. He went blind when he was 18 and has an incredibly inspiring story about how he's overcome various challenges to set up his own travel company. He's become a travel presenter on TV. He was amazing on Celebrity MasterChef. He did a brilliant job in incorporating the themes and that emotional messages we wanted to get across. And you could tell from the chat and the questions he was being asked, even virtually, people were hooked. And again, I don't think there was a dry eye in the house as he was speaking to. Would thoroughly recommend him if you ever looking for a speaker for an event. But we like to balance that kind of poignant and reflective moments with a bit of humour too, because otherwise it maybe feel a bit heavy. So as you might have seen on that earlier slide, we did start the event with our exec group dressed up as the Avengers, which I don't think anyone was expecting. Luckily for us, they're incredibly good sports, but it was just brilliant, and the chat was off the hook with people's comments about it, and they're still talking about those outfits now, which is brilliant. We also did the Masked Singer, again just pulling in a cultural reference. It was on at the time. It was a lot of people's lockdown guilty pleasures, and we had some amazingly courageous employees that came up and did that, but the humor really was in people's guesses on the chat as well. So yeah, look at your theme and then look at what's that emotional connection? What's that heartbeat that's going to be running through your event as well? Can we move to the next slide, please? So I think as communicators, we will all know that for content to be truly engaging, it has to be two-way and not broadcast. And I think in this digital world, you know, we are fighting more and more against distractions. So we need to work harder at that. So any event you do virtually has to have opportunities for those two-way conversations and for people to interact. Otherwise, you're going to lose people along the way. As I mentioned at the beginning, I believe the platform you choose for this is absolutely key. Obviously, I'm a big fan of AirMeet, and we did run our conference AirMeet, and we've run events on it afterwards as well. But what I love really about AirMeet is those opportunities for interaction that you don't get on all online platforms. And we really try to make it work for us during our events. So we use the social lounge right at the start, just like in commsHERO uses the social lounge so brilliantly. And we did that to kind of replicate those moments at a face-to-face conference that are actually quite informal, but where you maybe just catch up with someone you haven't seen for a while over coffee, have a chat, have a bit of a laugh, talk about what you're looking forward to for the day. So it's important we built in those moments. So we did that at the start. We also used the social lounge again a little bit further on into the event for a breakout session where we sent people off into tables that worked really well. They actually did an activity with something they got sent in their pre-event pack. Then when they came back, we asked for volunteers to come up and join us on the stage to show us what they'd done in their groups. And I was expecting, you know, maybe one or two people to put their hands up. I'd actually lined a few people up just in case as backup, so there wasn't tumbleweed. But I was absolutely blown away by the amount of people that put their hands up to come up and show us what they'd done. And it wasn't your normal type of people that always put their hands up. It was all different types of people. It was absolutely amazing. And what it made me realize was at a face-to-face event, those people wouldn't have put their hands up. They'd be too nervous to come up on the stage. So it definitely has the opportunity to have even more interaction and more people to get involved. Obviously, as well, we've got the chat function too on AirMeet. And I probably underplayed that before we'd done our virtual event, but it is so powerful. Our chat was just continuously going the whole way through. It really helped people feel connected with each other. And again, you don't get those immediate reactions, do you, at a face-to-face? Maybe there's a little bit on social media, but you don't get that. And I think actually that's really powerful. And finally, let's not forget the emojis. So simple, but everybody loves them. And again, it's that people showing that instant reaction to something. And actually, as people running the event, it's lovely to see the type of emotions that people are connecting with through those emojis as well. As Carly mentioned at the start, in a different event, which was a party we ran in the summer, I'm very proud that we got the record for the most emojis in a specific amount of time. It might have been just me clicking, but yeah, I won't give away the number, but it'll be interesting to hear people's guesses on that. And then finally, think about your other channels too. Think about how you can cross-channel during your event. So during commsHERO, the resource team do this brilliantly, cross-channel with Twitter, with LinkedIn, other social channels as well. Internally, we use Yammer as our social network. So we encourage people to share on there as they go too. So for instance, we got people before they joined the event to do some selfies with some photo props we sent them. During the day, we asked them to take photos of the tables, put them on Yammer. We asked them to take photos of the activity they did and did a bit of a competition around that. And that way, actually, those conversations will go on after the event itself, and it creates a bit of a legacy on your own social platform too. Could you move to the next slide, please, Lee? Thank you. So next up, timing is definitely everything. And you can't just transpose what you would do at a face-to-face event with virtual. I think we all know it's much harder to gain people's and keeps people's attention when you're doing something online. Actually, quite worryingly, the human attention span is now said to be as little as 8 seconds. So hopefully you're still all out there and you're still all with me. And as I mentioned earlier, in this digital world, we have to fight even harder for people's attention, because if someone's just sitting at home tuning into an event, they're going to have a million different distractions around them. So it's so important to keep your whatever the content is, the sessions, short and sharp, and with plenty of breaks in between for people too. Our exec group keynote that I mentioned at the start is the only kind of real corporate strategic content we had, but wasn't really that corporate because they were all dressed as the Avengers, but that was only 25 minutes long. So we just tried to keep those quite short. The breakout session that people went away and did was only 20 minutes. Originally, we had that in as longer, and then we thought, actually, it's better just to be that little bit shorter, because there's nothing worse when you go off to a breakout session at an event or conference. You get the thing done really quickly, and then it's just a little bit of tumbleweed and don't really know what to do with yourself. And that's when you're going to lose people, if it's not just fast-paced and quickly moving as well. So next slide, please, Lee. Thank you. Next up, again, this is something that Resource and the commsHERO gang just do so brilliantly, and that's creating that buzz both before an event, during it, but afterwards too. And there's a lot less commitment involved, I think, in going to a virtual event. So you're not having to book your travel or sort all of that stuff out. So it's easier to kind of maybe decide on the day you're not going to go. It's also less visible that you're not there. So it's really important to get people's excitement, intrigue, engagement going before they even come along. So you make sure that they do come along. And we do this in a number of different ways. We like to balance just giving just enough away that people are going to get excited and interested, but we also like to leave quite a lot as a surprise as well, because we find that really does build the anticipation. It gets people talking, oh, what do you think the exec group are going to be dressed up as this year? Or who do you think we're going to have a speaker? Or so we keep quite a lot of it secret. One key way that we use to really build kind of excitement, anticipation, was sending out our pre-event packs, which Resource helped us with. And that was great because when they came through people's letterboxes, everyone started posting on Yammer. We put quite a few sustainable things in there. So there was like a reusable tote bag. Very of the moment, we had a reusable hand sanitizer bottle, all branded, of course, your classic notebook and pen. But we wanted things that people would use long after the event themselves. So they'd see them and they'd connect back again to that emotions, those feelings during the event. Also, through these packs, it's a great way to help encourage some user-generated content. So in them, we had some photo booth props, really simple, but it really works. And before the event, we asked people to take a selfie with the prop and tell us what they were excited about for the event and the day itself. We used Yammer a lot for kind of our teaser campaigns, really kind of dug into the Marvel kind of Avengers theme with that. And we also ran some huddle activities as well, and ran some competitions too. And what I was so pleased about, because I was feeling a lot of pressure about it going well, on the couple of weeks up to it, people were talking about it. And even virtually and online, you could feel an energy and a buzz that you would usually have when we were all in the office going to a face-to-face event. So that was really, really brilliant to feel that, and shows it can be done. And then finally, it's how do you create that buzz afterwards too? Really important, and just as important as a face-to-face event, and thinking about what's the legacy of this event going to be. So we do all the usual things, carry on the conversations on Yammer, ask people what their favourite moments were, ask them to share their own pictures, we share our pictures, reshare all the films, all of that sort of thing. But what we also like to do is create something that will live on and become part of kind of our culture. So what we did was, in the event pack, as I said, there was something for an activity that people had to bring along. It was really simple. It was just a coaster which had a card insert in. And in the breakout activity, we asked everybody to draw, or, you know, put in words if they didn't feel they wanted to draw it, what superpower they brought to the table at RHP. Again, I was so astounded by how quickly and how brilliantly everybody did this, and how many people joined in with it. We then got them to take a picture of it, put it on Yammer, and we've taken all of those pictures and we put them into one almost like mosaic, which really gets that stronger together theme across, because it showed how everyone's collective superpowers come along to make us stronger as one as well. Next slide, please, Lee. So what were the outcomes? So these are just a few of the comments we got either on the chat or on Yammer afterwards. And I was absolutely blown away. And I was really, really proud of our people, because they hadn't been to anything like this before and probably didn't know what to expect, but they just threw themselves into it and just across the board joined in, got involved, and had fun with it. And I will have to admit, I shed a couple of tears when I read some of these comments. And again, it wasn't from all your usual suspects. It was from people who may be a bit cynical sometimes. And I think we all know when you crack those people, you think, gosh, that's really success. So yeah, that was lovely, lovely to see. And next slide, please. And then, here are just some of kind of the stats from the day. Just to put this in perspective, we have around 260 people, and 211 of those came along to the event. So it was about 87% of our organisation attended. What I haven't mentioned actually is it was slightly hybrid, because our caretakers who have phones but don't have laptops, we actually ran watch parties for them, socially distant watch parties. So they were in groups and they watched it on a big screen. So that includes them as well. We had over 2,000 comments in the chat afterwards, which was amazing considering there was only 211 people there. So I think that gives you an idea of that buzz and energy that was there. We are a not-for-profit, so we don't measure return on investment, but we do talk about return on engagement. And a couple of weeks after the event, we ran our quarterly pulse check, and we got 91% employee satisfaction in that pulse check. And I'm by no means saying that that is completely down to this event at all, but there were comments in the pulse check relating to it, and I do think it made a difference in terms of just giving people that boost of morale that they needed, and that energy and that feeling of connection with each other, because it was around the time of that third lockdown, which I think everybody just was feeling really quite down and low about. So I think it came at the right time for us. And then just some of the benefits that I kind of learned along the way, and which changed my mind about virtual events, are, you know, they're more cost effective. You don't have to pay for a venue. Yes, invest in a good platform and people to help you with that platform if you need them. But actually, for us, we used to find that venue cost was the most expensive. We got higher attendance at this than we get to at face-to-face. Anyone can join from anywhere. There is actually potential for more interaction, which again, I was shocked at. But as I said, different types of people seem to want to be, joining in and getting involved as well. And it is, they can be more accessible and inclusive. So just like accessible in the sense that anyone can join from anywhere, but also on digital platforms like AirMeet, you have things like the captions for people. And in terms of that inclusivity, we found that some quieter, more introverted people actually said they felt more comfortable in this environment and were more inclined to join in a lot more. So just to conclude, my thoughts really are there's a place for both virtual and face-to-face, and we're now building both of those into our comms plan. So even though we can now meet face-to-face more, we're definitely not disregarding the virtual, because I have seen the light and seen all of the different benefits they can bring, and they can be special and magic in their own unique way. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Chloe. Let's show Chloe some emoji love and see if we can beat her record. We've still not got anywhere close in those numbers, so you're going to have to keep on guessing, guys. Thank you so much, Chloe. There is a lot of questions in the chat, but and some love in the chat there. This return on engagement instead of return on investment, I think, is going to be something that we're all thinking about, because it's so important as well in terms of employee comms, and we want our people to be engaged, and I think your virtual events did that on an exponential basis. So it was brilliant. And I'm just going to have a look at the questions. There are some questions here that I might be able to answer because they're about the platform. So I actually freelance with Resource, and so I've helped Chloe run some of these events. So one key question, though, Chloe, that I'm thinking of is what happens next with virtual events? Because I think a lot of us in the virtual events world have started to notice that people are getting fatigued with doing things online, and they're more, they're desperate for face-to-face engagement. But, having a look at your outcomes that you showed us previously, we can see in terms of the data that virtual events are really good, really positive, really successful. So how do you think that's going to work going forward? Do you think that virtual events do have an expiry date on them? What do you think about
that? I definitely think there's still a place for them and a long-lasting future for them as well. I think it is being careful about picking the right event to do virtually and the right ones to do face-to-face. And for, as I said, for us, we think a mixture is best. Mm-hmm. But I do think, and I know I'm kind of going over the same point, but the platform is so important for this, because I think people are getting fatigued with Zoom and MS Teams, and there's no disrespect to those platforms. They're brilliant, especially for day-to-day work. Yeah. And we ran some events before we did this one on those platforms, but we felt we just didn't get the same engagement because they're not set up for events necessarily. Yeah. They're more set up for online meetings. They don't have those avenues for interaction, plus people using them every day, and during the pandemic people were using them for their family quizzes and everything too. So I think that's what people are getting fatigued with. I think if you pick the right platform that has those opportunities for interaction and feels different for people, you know, none of our people had seen Air Meet before, so when they came along, I think immediately it made them sit up and go, oh, this actually might be all right, you know, this is a little bit different. So I really believe there's a future. I think a lot of people will start to try the hybrid model. And as I said, we did that slightly, but not really in the full way. And I think, you know, that's going to be quite tricky, trying that. And if people can get it to work, that's amazing. So yeah, definitely think there's still a future for them.
Yeah, brilliant. I know Resource did their first hybrid event a few weeks ago, so I'm sure that's something that will be, I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm sure that's going to be something that's on the table to offer in the coming years. Asif can tell me off if that's not actually true.
That's really good to
know. So I'm going to move over to some of the questions that we have that have been submitted. So Alison Stokes asked, does Air Meet have the opportunity to run 3 or 4 drop-in sessions side by side? And Alison, Air Meet does have that capacity. So the version of the platform that we're using at the moment is the meetup side of the platform, which is where you have the sessions consecutively. But there is another version, which is the conference side, where you can have sessions running simultaneously. And you can also have sponsor booths and a lot of interaction as well on that. We ran a couple of weeks ago, we did an event for NHS communicators. That was really successful, and we had a couple of like breakout sessions in the afternoon and in the morning where we had multiple sessions side by side and people could just tune into whichever one they wanted. So if anyone does want to chat to Resource about virtual events, they will be on a table at the end. Also, Chloe will be to answer any questions as well that you might have. So next question, Baz from Red Kite Community Housing says, how easy was it for you to convince your chief executives to dress up as Avengers?
I thought this question might come up. Well, our chief exec is just an absolutely amazing sport. So that's the easy part. And he, as I said at the beginning, he's dressed as the Doc from Back to the Future. We've had him dress up as David Guetta, the DJ. He'll basically go along with whatever we ask him to do. And often I'm worried thinking he's going to say no this time, and he never does. So really grateful for that. However, the rest of the exec group aren't as up for it. And especially when they're new, they're like, what on earth are you asking me to do? So a couple of things I try and do to persuade them. One is I kind of tell them how it's gone for people before, and really that it's people see the opportunity for people to see them as humans and with a sense of humor, and that they don't take themselves too seriously. And there's so much power in that. And also the fact that people are laughing with them, not at them. And that's so true. People think it's amazing. People think they're legends for doing it. So it definitely kind of ups their cool factor. And then I try and ease them in. So I think before, there was a couple of new execs for this one, before the Avengers, I'd maybe ease them in with a couple of not so out there outfits for huddles and things, or fun props. So it wasn't all in at the same go. And then I just use good old peer pressure, and I ask the rest of the team to kind of just encourage them to do it. But once they've done it once and they see the reaction they get from people and how much people really respect it, then they'll do it. You've got them on side to do it again.
Yeah, I think like from working with your exec team for the birthday celebration, they definitely were good sports. And I remember you saying you had to give the CEO a memo to not dress up quite so much this time. He very persuading.
He came along. He does a weekly employee briefing. He came along for one dressed as Batman.
Yeah.
We didn't even ask him to. So we've got
Yeah.
the opposite problem with him.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, Emma Wanacott asks a brilliant question. How do you get anyone not keen on tech to join in and embrace the virtual?
Yeah, that is a really good question. And we do have pockets of people or teams that don't use tech as much in their day-to-day work who are maybe a bit more nervous about it, or were maybe initially turned off by the fact that, oh, well, it's all online, I won't be joining in on that. We gave a lot of prep and support in the run-up, particularly for this first big virtual conference that we did. So I went along and brought kind of members of our IT along to their team huddles to talk them through how it would all work. We made sure their managers were really briefed as well about kind of how easy it was. But if there's any problems, don't worry, there's lots of support there. So I guess it's just reassuring people that it's simple, but if they get stuck, it's not to worry. There's loads of people on hand to support them.
Yeah,
we did lots of messaging across the whole company actually about how to join up to AirMeet and register, how to get on the tables. All of that is really simple and self-explanatory, but I thought it's better to over communicate these things.
Oh, definitely.
Because my worst nightmare was on the day having loads of people who hadn't properly read what you sent out, and I can't get in. But actually we had very few of those queries. Also, we had Lee and Sophia from Resource there, who were absolutely fantastic, helping with any of those tech queries. But we had very, very few of those. So I'd say just lots of support, lots of reassurance. And again, similar to what I was talking about with the exec and the fancy dress, once people have done it once, they realise it's nothing to worry about. And actually, some of the teams who are like that, so we have retirement scheme managers who don't use tech that much in their jobs. They were amazing on the chat and, couldn't get them off there and all the emojis. So, it's kind of, just easing people in. And then the best way is just to show them.
Yeah. Oh, there's a great comment here from Baz. Loved your presentation, Chloe. Sense of humour is the key. And Baz has got a birthday party coming up that we're helping with. So I think she's definitely going to take some inspiration from you for that. So.
Oh, amazing! Thank you, Baz. And we're in very safe hands if the team are helping with that.
So we've got a great question here from Sarah, and she says, my previous workplace had Yammer along with lots of other channels, which meant not many people ended up engaging. How did you encourage people to go there instead of Teams, SharePoint, email, etc.?
Yeah, really, really good question. And I think particularly during the pandemic, a lot of new channels just kind of came out organically, or things like people using Teams more and more. And I was worried about that diluting Yammer, because we worked really hard to get good engagement up on there. So we refreshed our channel matrix and just made it really clear in that about what channel you go to for what, and just really emphasizing the purpose of each channel and making sure you differentiate those. And we didn't just do that once. We kept kind of reinforcing that messaging as well. Went to people's huddles. We kind of backed it up, talking about it in our e-newsletter, things like that. So definitely if you kind of refresh channel matrix, make that really clear, the purpose of each of the channels. Also, it's good to get leaders on board and managers on board to role model how you use the different channels too, because if others can see it in action, they can help them understand where they go for what different types of content interactions. That's
so helpful. I love how virtual events have a massive connection with internal comms, and just you talked so much about excellent stakeholder engagement and really thinking clearly through your channels, and it's brilliant, the connection between those two things. And speaking about channels, obviously you chose to use AirMeet and to use Resource. Asif asks a question: it's disappeared. Where is it? How important is the expertise of the event management agency, and what should clients be looking for?
Oh my goodness, so important. Because I'm so glad that we chose to get some support and some help with that tech size and with running the platform, because it means you don't have, that's a worry you don't have to think about on the day. There's so many other things to think about. You can get on with thinking about your content and all of that sort of stuff. And I knew I was in 100% safe hands with the team. So that was brilliant. So yeah, things I would be looking for when I would be going out to look for that support would be, do they know the platform they're using inside out? And obviously, I knew that Resource did, because they've been using it for their own events. They've been using it for their own events. They will know how AME works. People who are great communicators, make you feel reassured. Think of everything. Think of things that you don't even think about. That attention to detail. People who have high standards, just like you. And yeah, I have to say, it was just an integral part to the success of our event. Having the Resource team behind us. So yeah, massive shout out to Lee. Sophia helped on the day, as if of course the rest of the team. Joel helped support us with our packs. It was a real team effort, and we probably couldn't have done it without them. So yeah, just look for people that you would trust, people that are experts in whatever the platform they're using as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's brilliant. Well, as I mentioned earlier, Chloe and some of the guys from Resource are going to be on a table at the end. So if you've got a virtual event or an event coming up that you're not sure whether to do virtual or in person, then do hop on a table and have a chat with Chloe and the guys from Resource to figure out what's going to work best for what you need for your organisation. So thank you so much, Chloe. That was brilliant. And I'm wondering if you have beaten your record of ladies during this session. We do have a very close between two people, and I'm just checking what Lee's going to verify the answer. Right. So I can announce that. Where's it gone? Beth, you are, I'm trying to find your comment now. Beth won. Oh, there we go, with 29,999. So the actual result was somewhere around 29,000, but I can't remember the specific number. But it was definitely 29,000. So Beth, you are the winner, and you get some commsHERO greeting cards. You get a commsHERO notebook, and you win a dozen Krispy Kremes. So well done, Beth. That is brilliant. And don't forget, if you want to be in with the chance to win some swag, then do a selfie at your social lounge table and post it onto socials with the hashtag commsHERO, and you can be up for winning some amazing prizes that will get announced tomorrow morning. And we've got a great afternoon coming up. So we've got Fit with Frank next, and we've got some sessions on recruitment, how to have engaging content, shifting sands and being in a time of uncertainty. And of course, don't forget to get your glad rags on for the after party tonight at 7:30. Hopefully we'll see you there. And finally, a big shout out to our sponsors, Staffbase, Prezi, React and Share, Red Kite, First Up, for enabling this event to happen. So thank you so much, Chloe. We'll see you guys on the tables, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.